Hi, welcome back to McCarthy Performance. Today we'll be doing some iron block repair, cracks on a 331 Hemi for a nostalgic funny car, the Brigadier, from this area. So we're going to start pinning up the block. This will be a tapered pin, repair the older style pins. So we'll get going on the block. It's sitting over there. We've got it magged already. We know where the ends of the cracks are. Both jackets are cracked. So we're going to start the pinning process. I'll try to cover some of it, at least the important parts. There's going to be a lot of drilling and tapping involved, and I'm not going to make the whole entire video about just the drilling and tapping, but I'll put pins in. I'll probably start the process. I'll show you kind of the beginning, the middle, and the end, and end results. So I hope you learned something. Like I've said before, I've done iron repair. There's iron repair videos on my channel. The best repair most all the time is a cold repair. So that's what we're going to do to this block. We're going to use the tapered pin method. It's been around forever. It works. So we'll get going on it. So you can see we've got, did a particle check on it. You can see we've got here, up here, in here. Looks like it's going all the way to here. So we want to be ahead of it. I don't care. I'd rather put 3 pins in ahead of the crack than miss the crack. So that's where we're going to drill on this one. This one, not so terrible. We're going to start to pin there. Pin there. So them are marked out. This one's pretty much straight across. And that's a casting, that ain't a crack. This plug, I'm going to replace this plug. I'm going to see, I might just replace all of his plugs. They're going to run a water pump on this, so they're going to actually run a radiator on this block, so we got to stitch it up tight. So we'll get going on it. Next process would be drilling it. I'm going to start out and I'm going to use some of my big pins. And the reason why I'm going to use the big pins is it's going to cover more area. I won't have to drill as many holes, but there will be a lot of drilling. But I'm going to start I'm going to do the ends with the big pins. But I think on this one, I'm going to start with a big pin here, and I'm going to stitch all the way up to about here, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to stitch this. So we'll get going on it. Okay, I found the ends of my cracks. I drilled them, and I went ahead of them. I always do that. Of course, you want to do that. You don't want to start back here, so I started a little bit further ahead of the crack. And what I'm going to do is, now that I have these drilled, I'm going to, because these are my ends, I'm going to use big pins. So I'm going to drill it for my big pins. I'm not going to put the pins in, but I'm going to drill it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire wheel the living heck out of this, get it really clean. He's got it pretty clean, but we're going to get it cleaner. Of course, when you put your pins in, you got to be mindful that you're not hitting anything in the block. And what I mean by that is head stud threads, anything like that. So, you know, if you're drilling and it's solid, make sure that whatever you're drilling into, I mean, because this is thin wall material, it's a jacket, water jacket, it's not going to be extremely thick. If you're drilling and drilling and drilling, stop. You could be drilling through a cylinder wall, as crazy as that sounds, or drilling through a head bolt insert, you know, not an insert, but, you know, where the thread bolt would be threaded into the block deck. So you want to be careful of that, because then at that point, you're going to have to try to get it broke loose and maybe put an insert in it. So that drill could be a lot sharper than it is. So we'll get another drill. So we got another drill. That one actually went in and then it snapped the tip off of it. And that drill I thought was fairly sharp, but obviously it wasn't. So, but no problem. We just tapped out the drill. Things happen. This jacket's fairly thin, so you know it's not going to take much to drill through it. That's better. That's a whole lot better. So we're going to do the other side now, and that's going to be about the same thing, but I'll let you watch. These are my bigger pins. I've got bigger pins than this even, but you know, we're going to utilize some of my big pins because the little pins, you take a lot of them to do this. There, we got that. Now we're going to wear wheel everything to get it good and clean. So I just remembered that I burnt up my angle drill. I usually run a knotted cup on it. This is going to work fine, but when I get done with this, I like to run a knotted cup wheel over it, and there's a carbide bit, a cross-cut carbide burr bit that I use, and that kind of textures it up, and when you hit it with a knotted cup, it looks pretty good. So I'll have to get one, but we'll get going on this. There, we got that side clean. We'll clean up the other side and we'll start drilling and pinning. Okay. So you can see we got her nice and clean. You can definitely see that crack stand out. Hopefully when we start drilling it, it'll pull it straighter together. It's a little heaved up a little bit. And that happens. You said one side wasn't leaking, and that's kind of common. It will do that. You know, these, you know, iron don't crack straight. Usually cracks in a bevel. And once you relieve the tension off of it, which would be frozen coolant, water actually, you know, the block will grow, it'll go back together sometimes, and it'll rust and it won't leak under low pressure. So we'll start tapping for the pins. Okay, now these are the tapered pins that I'll be using. This is considered an older style pin, but they work fine. And I only use a little bit of the pin. You don't throw the rest away. You just keep reusing it until there's nothing left. And I always save my pins, so I got a lot of pins that we're going to be trying to use as many pins up. That sounds correct. We're going to use one pin more than once. That's what I wanted to say. Of course, you don't want de-threading in there too far like a porcupine. This is thin casting, so we're going to start tapping. And iron taps rather nicely. So we're going to go in there. We're not going to go all the way down there because then we're going to throw the pin away. We want the part that drives it. So we're going to start this one. We're going to go in there. It's only about 1/4 inch thick, so we're only going to go down 1/4 inch. We don't need to go any further than that. So we already started. So we'll chase it down a little bit more, because these are much like a pipe, tapered pipe thread. So we're going to go in a little further. So we're going to stop there and see how it threads in. Now I'll take a brush and I'll brush this out, and I will be using a thread sealer, on this. Okay, that's pretty good. So we're going to start the stitching process, lacing, whatever you want to call it. So I have to get set up here for the process, and then I'll be right back at it. Okay, so we have this one tapped. I'm going in about that far. I've got it marked. We're going to brush it out with some carb cleaner. So we've got a cylinder sleeve right there, and that's about as far. So we didn't want to go in too far. We didn't. So we're going to clean this off again, and we're going to wipe it down with a towel, and then I'm going to put some 620 Loctite on it. So everything's good and clean. This one's right up against the sleeve too, so I'm sorry, cylinder wall, not a sleeve. I'm thinking sleeve, but it's one of them days, you know. So, you know, obviously, like I said, we drilled far enough and we knew we broke through and we stopped. If you kept going, you'd probably go right through the side of the wall, and then you'd be putting a sleeve in. So I'll get the 620 Loctite. We'll put the first pin in this job. And I use way more than I need to, probably, to do this, but in this particular case, I believe a little bit more is better. So okay, we're going to thread her in. There's a little resistance. Now I'm going to cut the pin halfway through. Got a little saw, but actually a cutoff wheel works better. It's quicker. Some places you can't get in here with a cutoff wheel, and the saw is handy, but today we'll use a cutoff wheel. Okay, you always want to make sure when you're cutting you don't hit the block or anything around it. Let's give her a little tighten it up a little bit more. And I twist them off. Okay. Now we're going to start We're going to save this pin because we're going to use it here or maybe possibly 2 more times. So now we're going to start pinning. I have to take this and I have to grind it flush somewhat. Makes it easier to start the pin because we're going to be drilling through this. So we'll have to grind it down. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. I'm going to use a die grinder today. I'm going to use a double cut burr for it. Could use a grinding wheel with a stone, but we'll use this. Really don't matter how you do it as long as you get it done. Okay, that's going to be far enough that I can start I can drill along the side of it. It ain't going to be a problem. I don't want to run them flush yet because I'm going to do something to them when I'm done. Okay, now we're going to start using the smaller pins, and that'll take a smaller tap to do it. Now, because we're so close to the cylinder wall, right here and right there, we are going to use just the tip of a couple ones. I won't be able to reuse them. You know, I'll be able to use them in a different spot. So I won't be able to use any of the ones that are cut. So because I can't bring this tap in any further. So we're going to be using just the beginning part of it. And I honestly don't think I could put I would be using a lot of bigger pins. I could do that. I could use all the bigger pins that I have. But I'm going to use small pins throughout it. Okay, that's probably as far as we want to go down because we're going to hit the wall. So that should get me started. Yep, it gets started in there. Okay, that's fine. We don't need to go in very deep, but the problem is the pin's really quite small, so they'll take a lot more of them. So we'll put this one in. Okay, we are drilling into the side of the previous pin, and that's the whole idea of it. You kind of see how far I went in before by the chips on the tap. So I'm not gonna, I can go down a little deeper because we are away from the cylinder wall now, not by a lot, but a little bit. You can check it. There's a welding rod, good way to check it. See, we're down quite a ways, so we might be able to utilize a little thicker pin, one that's been used already. Now, these things are getting hard to find, and you don't really want to waste them if you don't absolutely have to waste a whole pin. So we're going to use this one. Yeah, we're going to use that. We're going to clean them up. We're going to tap them down a little bit further, and that one will work out just fine. We'll keep going. I'll probably get halfway through here and I'll probably utilize some of my big pins. I kind of have a lot of bigger pins and I don't have a lot of the little pins, so I kind of want to mix them up a little bit. It's not going to affect the repair at all. So we went down a little further because this pin is obviously a little, as it's tapered, it gets wider. So put him, yep, no problem. Yep, good deal. We'll clean them up, we'll get going. Okay, we're almost at the halfway mark. We've got some blending to do and I'm going to peen it a little bit with a punch. I got a peener, but I don't really feel comfortable hammering too much on iron. But I can peen it with my peener, but I think I'm going to just use a punch. That's what I normally use. It's getting thicker up here. I think I'm going to put another small pin in here. And then I'm going to go and put a couple big pins in here. And then I'll go back to small pins again. There we go. This isn't a very big crack. It was a small crack. It went out like this. So probably a big pin and then maybe another big pin. I don't know. I think I can do it in 2 big pins and 1 small pin. I might do it that way, but we'll see when we get there. And as soon as I get to this point here, I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish that up. You should be able to see that. I'm stepping over each pin. So I'm going to drill it for a small pin and then the rest will be big pins up there. When I get to that point, we'll get back. Tell you it's all pretty much the same process. Okay, so this is a thicker part of the block. So I'm anchoring my pins to that. So I'm going in a little deeper. I've checked to make sure, and I knocked that plug out to make sure there was nothing that I was going to hit that would mean anything. So we went in a little deeper. I've got some bigger pins, and I've got one here, 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 and here. And because this crack went like this, dropped down, then kicked back up here, I didn't want to miss the center of the crack, so I drilled it already. When this pin goes in, I'll have a guide hole, so I'll be able to hit that. We're still on that reinforcement there, but that's okay. We'll continue down with smaller pins, and of course here. Probably going to put this pin in, then that one, and I'm going to stop and I'm going to take care of this. So we'll put this pin in, much as all the rest of the pins. They're all going to be about the same technique that I do. Anytime I can take advantage of a thicker area of the block, I'll drill it, blockhead, whatever, and I'll put the pin in a little further. Of course, you don't want the pin to deadhead. This one's kind of tricky because the iron, when it broke, it's still a little uneven, and I don't want to play with it. So it starts kind of tricky. Once it gets going, it'll be fine, but we don't want to. There it goes. So, you know, and how tight do you tighten up the pins? Well, till they stop. You feel a little bit of resistance on them. I'll cut halfway through the pin, like you've seen me do, and then I'll shear the pin off, twist the pin off, and then that's tight. With 620, and being that they're overstepped they're not going anywhere, but I do snug them up a little bit. Okay. Just like that. So now I've got this hole already drilled, so I know that I'm not going to miss the center line of that crack, because obviously I want to put the pin in the center line of the crack. So we're good now, and I can I'm going to dress this down, and then I'm going to come down with my pins. I'm going to take care of that one right now. So we're going to tap that for a big pin. And that is close to the cylinder wall, so I cannot utilize one of my pins that is used already. Yeah, see, we don't have much room. So I'm going to use a new pin, and then I'll put that in, and then I'll stitch down. I'll probably mag this again to find my crack. That don't sound right, does it? To see where it's cracked. How about that? And we'll make sure we hit the center of that. Because honestly, I believe it's right there. It's a little jagged. Kind of goes like that. But we want to make sure we get the center line of that crack. So we'll put a new pin in there. We'll dress some stuff down and we'll keep going. Of course, I got the other side to do, and I don't know if I'll do that on this video. Probably just show you a picture of it when it's all done. This is probably not that exciting unless you got a block that's cracked and you want to try to save it. Then you might get some value out of this, but it's pretty much the same technique all the way through. They don't go in very far. They don't need to. You just need to go past the jacket a little bit. And like I said, of course, anytime you can take advantage of a heavier part of the casting, I always go down a little further. It anchors up my pins and it keeps everything more solid. That doesn't sound right, does it? No, it doesn't sound right, but we'll go with that. Okay, I'll give her a little twist. This will twist her right off. There. So I'll find my area that I want to center line and drill, and then we'll get back at it, and I'll dress these down, and I'll show you when this is done, because this is just going to be more drilling and tapping. So I'll show you when it's finished. Okay, we got this side done. Because it was heaved up, I am not willing to smooth it out much more than that. The casting is not that thick. So he's just going to have to live with that. That's about as best I can do. It's just, there's just not enough material there to level all that out. And I can texture it up a little bit with a needle scaler, and I might do that. But that's pretty much how you repair a block. And thank you for watching, and please subscribe, tell your friends, and all that good stuff. Thank you.